If your Chihuahua barks at every little sound, the easy conclusion is that they are just being noisy, dramatic, or spoiled. But what if that is not what is happening at all? What if your Chihuahua is not barking at nothing, and not even barking just to be difficult? What if they are reacting to a world that feels louder, sharper, and more urgent than the one you notice? This is where many loving owners get the story wrong. We hear the interruption. Your Chihuahua feels the trigger. Dogs can hear sounds humans miss, including distant or higher frequency noises. An alarm barking is a real response to something startling or unsettling. So when your little dog suddenly erupts at the door, the hallway, the street outside, or a sound you barely noticed, it may not be random chaos. It may be their nervous system saying, "I caught something." Please pay attention. And with Chihuahuas, this often runs even deeper. They're tiny, but they're also alert, watchful, and surprisingly brave in the way they carry themselves. That small body can make ordinary sounds feel bigger and more personal, so what looks excessive to you may feel urgent to them, especially when they believe it is their job to warn the person they love most. That is why your Chihuahua may not be trying to control the house. They may be trying to hold the house together. And here is the part most owners never hear beneath the noise. Not every bark means the same thing. Sometimes it is warning. Sometimes it is worry. Sometimes it is need that has not been understood yet, and one very common reaction from loving owners can accidentally make this pattern even louder. So the real question is not why is my Chihuahua so annoying? It is what kind of message are they trying to send? 1. The warning, the worry, and the need underneath. One of the biggest mistakes Chihuahua owners make is treating every bark like it means the exact same thing. We hear noise and assume attitude. We hear intensity and assume aggression. But barking at every sound is not one simple message. It can come from alerting, fear, uncertainty, overstimulation, boredom, or even a learned habit that grew over time. The real clue is not just the bark, it is the state behind it. Sometimes your Chihuahua is giving a true alarm response. They hear something sudden, their body gets still or slightly forward, and the bark comes out sharp, fast, and watchful. That kind of barking often says, "Something changed. I noticed it. You need to know." But other times the sound lands differently. You may see pacing, tension, wide eyes, scanning, or trouble settling even after the noise is gone. That kind of barking often leans more toward worry than warning, and that difference matters, because many Chihuahuas are not saying "leave us alone" in some bold, bossy way. Very often they're saying, "I heard something, I do not feel fully safe yet. Please notice this with me." That is a very different emotional story. It means the bark may be less about dominance and more about responsibility. And in a tiny body, that responsibility can feel huge. This is why context matters more than stereotypes. You want to notice when the barking happens, what your Chihuahua's body looks like, how quickly they recover, and whether the same trigger creates the same reaction each time. Timing, posture, and recovery speed will tell you far more than the sound alone. The more you understand this, the more your question starts to change. Instead of asking, "Why is my dog so annoying?" you start asking, "What state is my dog in right now?" And once you see that barking has different emotional roots, the next part becomes harder to hear, because sometimes love itself can accidentally teach the barking to grow. 2. The loving habit that can make it louder. This is the part many loving Chihuahua owners do not expect because it comes from a good heart. You hear the barking, you rush over, you pick your dog up, you start talking, or you answer with your own loud energy because you want it to stop. In that moment, it feels like support, it feels like protection, it feels like love. But sometimes that exact reaction becomes part of the barking loop. That does not mean you caused the whole problem. It does not mean your Chihuahua is bad. And it definitely does not mean your dog is manipulating you in some cold, calculated way. It means your Chihuahua is watching what happens next and building a safety pattern around your response. If barking brings closeness, movement, eye contact, emotion, or being picked up, the brain can start connecting all of that to the bark itself. And with Chihuahuas, this can happen fast. They bond deeply, They study your face, your tone, your energy. So if your nervous system rises every time theirs rises, your reaction can quietly become part of the ritual. Even yelling can do it, because to a keyed-up Chihuahua, loud energy still feels like a big emotional event. This is why positive behavior guidance focuses so much on understanding the reason first, rewarding calm and avoiding punishment, especially when fear or uncertainty may be involved. In some cases, even picking a Chihuahua up during reactive barking can reinforce the sequence rather than settle it. The hopeful part is this: your dog is not stuck with a broken personality. They are responding to a pattern, which means patterns can change. Calm consistency matters, your steadiness matters, the way you answer the moment matters, and that should feel empowering, because this is the point where frustration turns into agency. You're not helpless here. You have more influence than you think. If you love Chihuahuas and you want more videos that help you understand what their little behaviors really mean, subscribe, like, and share this with another Chihuahua owner who needs it. Because now the real question becomes hopeful. How do you help your Chihuahua feel heard without letting barking run the whole house? 3. How to make your Chihuahua feel safer, not silenced. Once barking starts wearing you down, it is easy to think the goal is simple: make it stop, make the house quiet again. But with a Chihuahua, that mindset can miss the emotional need underneath the noise. The real goal is not silence. The real goal is helping your dog feel safe enough that every sound no longer feels like their responsibility to manage alone. That is a very different kind of help, because when you lower the trigger, stay calm, and teach a better response, you're telling your Chihuahua something powerful. I heard you. Thank you. I have this now. And for a breed this small, this alert, and this emotionally attached, that message matters. Chihuahuas often soften when they feel their person has become the steady protector. Their vigilance does not disappear overnight, but it no longer has to carry the whole house by itself. This is where humane, realistic support works best. Reward the quiet moment after the bark. Teach a calm, quiet cue instead of only reacting to the noise. Block visual triggers with blinds or window film when needed. Use white noise if outside sounds keep setting your Chihuahua off. Add sniffing, play, and small mental challenges, because a tired nervous system often reacts less. Keep routines predictable, and maybe most important, try not to meet their alarm with your own alarm. What you are doing here is not taking away your Chihuahua's voice. You are showing them they do not have to hold the whole alarm system in their tiny chest anymore. That is why this approach feels so different. It is not force, it is compassionate leadership. And that is often what brings the deepest relief for both of you. Still, there is one more truth that matters, because sometimes barking is not only about sound sensitivity or habit at all. Sometimes it is asking for help in a deeper way. 4. When the barking is asking for help. There is one more layer here that loving Chihuahua owners should never ignore. Sometimes the bark is not just alertness, habit, or sound sensitivity. Sometimes it is the first sign that something changed. A lot of owners assume that if their Chihuahua has always been vocal, then more barking must still be the same old behavior. But that is not always true. If the barking suddenly gets worse, starts happening in new situations, or comes with pacing, hiding, trembling, confusion, weakness, restlessness, or signs of pain, the message may be very different. At that point, the most loving response is not just training, it is paying attention. Because sometimes the real problem is not that your Chihuahua is being louder, it is that your Chihuahua is feeling worse. This matters even more with a tiny breed. Chihuahuas can show stress and physical discomfort quickly, and because they already have a reputation for being reactive, it is easy for people to dismiss a serious change as just a Chihuahua thing. But veterinary behavior guidance is clear on this point. Sudden behavior changes should not be brushed off before pain, illness, injury, or other physical causes are ruled out. That does not mean every noisy Chihuahua is sick. It does not mean you need to panic every time they bark at the hallway or the front door. What it means is that context matters again. A familiar pattern is one thing. A change pattern is another. and this is such an important form of love. Listening deeply to your Chihuahua means noticing when their normal alert voice starts to sound more like distress, discomfort, or chronic strain. It means understanding that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is say, "This is different, and I need to take it seriously." Once health and safety are accounted for, the final truth becomes even more powerful, because the barking stops being just a problem to fix and starts becoming a relationship to understand. 5. What your Chihuahua may really be telling you. By the time most owners get here, the story in their head has usually been the same for a long time. My Chihuahua is too much, too loud, too reactive, too embarrassing. But very often, that is not the deepest truth at all. Very often the bark is saying something softer than it sounds. I noticed something before you did. I am trying to protect us. I do not feel fully sure yet. Please tell me we are okay. Please lead me. And that changes everything. Because what sounds like chaos can actually be attachment, vigilance, and love moving through a tiny nervous system that trusts you enough to call out. Chihuahuas are small, but their devotion is rarely small. They often carry enormous emotional loyalty inside a very little body. That is why an ordinary hallway sound, a car door, a neighbour outside, or a knock in the distance can feel so big to them. They hear more than we hear. They react to real triggers, even when we miss the source, and because they are naturally alert, that reaction can come out fast. So no, your Chihuahua may not be trying to become the boss of your home. They may be trying to protect the centre of their world. And sometimes, they're also asking you to take that burden off their shoulders. That is why calming the barking is not rejection. It is not shutting them down. It is an act of love. It tells your Chihuahua, "Thank you, I hear you. You do not have to carry this alone anymore. You can rest now." That may be the deepest meaning hidden inside all this noise. The little dog who looked difficult was never just being difficult. They may have been carrying a job that felt too big for their tiny chest. And once you understand that, the bark stops being just sound. It becomes information, emotion, and trust. If this helped you understand your Chihuahua in a deeper way, subscribe, like, and share this with another Chihuahua owner. And in the comments, tell me what sound sets your little protector off the most.